If you're struggling to create your very first YouTube video, trust me, you're not the only one. Hi everybody, my name is Michelle. If you're new to my channel, you're probably new to my channel because this is my first video, but before I even uploaded my very first video, I went through multiple video attempts just to get something that I was like partially proud of. And I know creating your very first video can be very daunting. So today I thought it'd be nice to help you guys out with that. If you guys are thinking of creating your very first video or you're thinking of starting a YouTube channel in general, I know what it's like to be a beginner and I know what it's like to feel the nerves of just making your very first video. So today I'm going to be taking you through all 3 steps of my video making process: the pre-production, the production, and the post-production. But before I even start with that, I want to give a couple words of encouragement because I know this can be very scary. For me personally, one of the things that really held me back from starting my channel was the fear of failure. I was afraid of people finding out about my channel. I was afraid of people making fun of me. The thing about YouTube is that you are going to fail, and that's okay. That's just a part of the process. And a lot of people say this, but it is definitely true. Your very first video especially does not have to be perfect. Right now, just focus on building your skills and eventually your videos will get to a place where you are somewhat happy with it. But if you're still struggling, here are some of my tips and some of the things that I did to sort of get myself over this fear of failure. Hello, what is up everybody, and welcome to my slideshow presentation. This is how to get over your fear of failure. Step 1, create your list of whys. Think about why this is something that you want to do. Think about why this is something that makes you happy. And this is something that really pushed me forward to do this in the beginning because I was really unhappy at the time. For me, my why was because I wanted to create something that I was proud of that I did by myself. Moving on, step 2. Imagine yourself 10 years from now if you didn't try. I know this feeling all too well because I've wanted to start a YouTube channel since I was like 11 years old, probably even sooner. Because even from the time that I wanted to start when I was younger to when I actually started, it really has been haunting me. Even if you try and you fail, at least it's better than not trying at all and always thinking, maybe I could have done this and maybe I actually could have succeeded, but I didn't even give myself a chance. Step number 3, realize that you are in charge of your own future. If you know that this is something that you're passionate about and something that will make you happy, you have to go for it and not really wait around for other people to help you and sort of give you that start. For years, I was asking my friends, I was like, hey, do you guys want to start a channel with me? I don't know why I didn't just like start myself. I just depended on other people to create a future for me that I wanted, and you can't do that. Final step, stop caring what other people think. This is so much easier said than done, and I honestly just have one thing to say. People who are genuinely happy with their own lives, they're doing their own thing, they don't really care what you're doing. If there are people that judge you, they're most likely people that are unhappy with their own situations, and they really have to fixate on somebody else's life and bring them down to sort of give them some sort of satisfaction. And with those people, you really shouldn't care about them. That is loser energy. So without further ado, we're gonna get into the step-by-step process, along with some things I kind of wish I knew during the time. This might be a lot of information, so sit down, get comfortable, grab a snack, and let's get into it. So even before you start to record, you need to know what you're going to talk about. And honestly, no pressure. Don't think that this video is going to set the tone for your entire channel. You don't really have to worry about niching down until you start making videos and sort of experimenting with what you like and what you don't like. If you take a look down my channel, it is like a whole science experiment. So in my opinion, the pre-planning process is probably my least favorite part. It's very easy to procrastinate and overthink. I was stuck at this part for months before I even turned the camera on. And the number one way that I was able to get past this was by making a list of 100 video ideas. I know it seems excessive, but trust me, it really gets you thinking. This is a good step to get your thoughts out into something more tangible. And when you finally have an idea for a video, I suggest you make like a rough outline. This will save you so much time. This is something that I wish I did more often, because to be honest, sometimes I skip pre-productions. I go through the same points over and over and over again, so I have to like stitch my clips in a way that makes it concise and seamless, and sometimes when I talk in the wrong order, I have to move things around and it just looks wonky. And it really does bother me, and I don't know why I don't make a script. But just because I do it doesn't mean you have to, so don't do that. However, when I do plan out my videos, is how I usually do it. So on the left-hand side, I will put an A-roll column, and on the left side, I will put a B-roll column. A-rolls are talking head videos, like the one that you're seeing right now. B-rolls are cinematic clips or just random clips that you place on top of your A-roll to make make it a little bit more interesting. So in my A-roll column, I'll usually write down some rough notes about what I want to talk about. And in my B-roll column, right next to the A-roll column, I will write a description of a video or a shot that I want to take that kind of accompanies the A-roll. But honestly, sometimes it really doesn't have to relate. It can just be interesting and intriguing. So depending on the type of video, I will kind of plan accordingly. So if it's a chill and sit down video where it's mostly just me talking to the camera, I usually will start off with a title and then I will work around that. Usually for these titles, I tend to make like statements. For example, these two videos, I came up with the title first and sort of built my talking points off of that. If it's a more produced and like spoken word type video, for example, these ones, those videos are actually planned around the music that I pick. What those videos are essentially my journal entries. Because of the way the script is, I can kind of like do a voiceover, and I usually do the voiceover to match like breaks in the song, like crescendos, and just like places where the music picks up, so I can like make it sort of like cohesive. And I actually have a Spotify playlist filled with like cinematic tracks I listen to on like car rides. I'm a big like daydreamer, so especially when I listen to instrumentals, it's really easy for me to like find ways to like incorporate that into videos. So yeah, if you want to check out the music, I'll link the Spotify playlist down below. It's called like YT. It's all Epidemic music, and I've been using Epidemic since the very start. I'm not just saying this. I actually reached out to them because they are the platform that I used when I started. Overall though, don't worry too much about this step. It's all about experimentation. The videos that you want to make now are going to be very different from videos that you want to make a month from now, or maybe a week from now even. So don't worry so much about picking the perfect video idea. So now that you got your video idea, time for the scary part, recording. I said that pre-production was the worst part about the whole video making process, but at the beginning, this recording part was definitely the worst. It's gonna be really, really awkward, especially if you've never done this before. If you're really having trouble, you could try doing a voiceover for your first video. But honestly, I would say try to stay away from that if you are planning to do more like talking head videos in the future, just because you want to get the practice in. This was one of those things that it took me about like probably a year to get comfortable with. One thing is, don't be so harsh on yourself. Your tone and your overall presence in front of a camera is going to get better as you keep going. So I would say that for this part, it's like 75% mental. Once you kind of get out of your head, talking becomes a lot easier. The thing that really helped me was kind of embracing my inner monologue. I feel like all of us have a voice inside of our heads that speak very comfortably to ourselves. Try to channel that. So one of the big questions I always get asked is what camera I use. So I use the Sony a6400. It comes with just the body, so I had to buy like a separate lens. So the one I use is a Sigma 16mm 1.4 DCDN. I'm gonna be honest, it's not the greatest setup. There's no stabilization in either the lens or the camera, so when I'm like taking videos on the go, it's very, very shaky, and then most of my footage becomes like unusable. The main reason why I got this lens was because it was really wide, and another thing is I like having the f1.4. It makes the background like blurry when the subject is in focus, so I like using that setting. Okay, so quick camera crash course using my very limited videography knowledge. On your camera, there are 4 settings that you can change. These 3 down here can affect the brightness of your video. If you don't know what this means, you can skip over it, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna explain to you what settings I use and why. So for ISO, I just always keep mine in auto because I'm lazy. However, for the frame rate and the shutter speed, I use the 180 shutter speed rule. I'll put a video explaining it down below if you're interested. But what it is basically, it helps you determine the setting to get good motion blur, and it makes it look a lot more natural because it mimics what you see in real life. So for most cameras, it's a 24 frames per second frame rate. So whatever your frame rate is, you're gonna double that to get your shutter speed. So if I'm shooting 24 frames per second, I will use a 1/50 shutter speed. Obviously 24 times 2 is not 50, but there is no 1/48 shutter speed. Now I'll put an example of what it looks like when you're using this rule and when you're not. And you can apply this rule into slow-mo as well. Usually slow-mo will be like 60 frames per second. What you'd use as your shutter speed is 1/120. I barely shoot with slow-mo, so I like never use this. Yeah, these are my camera settings that always stay the same, and I really like using it because it just makes everything look smooth. I feel like it makes like trees look smooth when they're swaying. I think it makes waves look smooth when they're crashing against the shore. It honestly comes down to like personal preference. There are a lot of filmmakers that use like different shutter speeds and frame rates. Okay, anyways, so because I keep all of these the same, the main thing that I manipulate light with is my aperture. I like using 1.4, but that also means that the camera is taking in a lot of light. It's great for low lights, but terrible when you're shooting in sunlight. Something to note for aperture, the lower the number is, the bigger the opening is, so more light comes in. And that is why I use this ND filter. If you want to shoot 1.4 and you don't want to use an ND filter, you'd have to change these two to make the video darker. So yeah, these are my main camera settings plus this. So I have mine on right now because it's sunny, and if you don't have this ND filter, it ends up looking like this. You still can use this camera without the ND filter, but you have to change your f-stop. Then there's no blur in the background like you're seeing right now. And to be honest, most times my room is like messy, so I kind of like having the blur. So this is the Peter McKinnon variable ND. I got it in the 6 to 9 stop. With this one, I can just twist it to adjust to the lighting condition. I'll show you what I mean. So this is on the 6 stop. If it was brighter, I would need to change it to make it darker, and I can just do that by twisting. This is like beyond the scope of this video, but I just want to explain to you because I think a lot of people have been asking how I get the look of my videos, and these are sort of the things that kind of create that effect. I really was hesitant on buying this ND filter. It was like basically the same price as my lens. Is it worth it? I would say yes, because I'm always shooting on f1.4. Is that a good camera setting to always have it on? Probably not. I'm not a cinematographer, I'm a vlogger. Sorry, my cat wants to come in. Come in. Another filter that I use during like the nighttime is this Tiffin Black Pro Mist filter. It's a diffusion filter, so it makes light a little bit more dispersed and less harsh. I have it in like 1/4. I don't know. Okay, guys, I do my research and then yeah. It makes things a little bit more soft. I'll do like a proper demonstration so you can see. It's not like super noticeable unless you're like pointing it at like a direct light source. So for other gear that I use this like mini point and shoot like all the time. Quality is very terrible, but that's what makes it very nostalgic to me. Another camera that I also use is this Panasonic video recorder. The only thing about this is it's kind of annoying to transport the videos onto my laptop because it is an analog. So for my mic, I use the Rode Video Micro. For videos where I want my audio to be a little bit better, I use this Rode NT1A. I have like a tripod, but it's just like a random one, I think off of Amazon. And that's like pretty much what I use mostly in terms of gear. I'm gonna say something that everyone says. Gear really does not matter. I know so many people that have gotten so far with just using their iPhone or their Samsung phone or anything. Your personality and what you bring to the platform is way more important than your gear. I'm saying this because honestly, I kind of went overboard when I started and I wish I didn't. If you're gonna invest in anything, invest in your microphone, hard drives, a good memory card, and down the line, maybe invest in like your editing software. But yeah, use what you have around you. And during this time, also remember to take a thumbnail photo. This makes it a lot easier because you're not scrambling at the end. Because some days I will record and then days later I will be like, oh my god, I forgot to take a thumbnail photo, and then I'm in a totally different location. When it comes to recording B-roll videos, don't be afraid to like get out there and like record yourself in like new locations. You're gonna be a little bit cringy. I know I'm really trying to sell you this idea that you shouldn't be embarrassed, but sometimes even now, I am embarrassed. Obviously, don't be like a public nuisance, but like, get your shot if you need your shot. Just remember, you got this, and I will see you at the next step. So now that you gathered all your footage, it's time for my personal favorite part, and that is editing. This is honestly the most time-consuming part, but probably the most fun because you have the most creative freedom. I personally use Final Cut Pro, but you can honestly use anything that you want. Premiere is also a very popular one. However, don't feel pressure to invest in anything yet. I know a lot of really good free ones. You could use DaVinci Resolve, Filmora. I started off using iMovie, anything that you can find. It really comes down to knowing how to use the software rather than which one you actually have. One thing that is definitely crucial during this step though is having a hard drive. When I first started, I tried to do everything on my laptop, and to be honest, that will not work long term. Videos take up a lot of space, so you definitely need it. I just have these two from Seagate, but yeah, any will do. Okay, so this is Final Cut. If you've never seen an editor before, this might be a little bit overwhelming, but trust me, it's not that bad. So I'm not going to be making a whole new video today on this editor, but I'm going to show you some old ones or some clips I haven't edited yet, and I'm just going to go through it and show you why I do what I do. Okay, let's say I'm editing this clip for this video that you're watching right now. So I'll bring this into my editor. So the first thing that I do is I press B. This is the cutting tool. So any of these gaps are like very long pauses because sometimes I don't know what to say. I just go through and I cut all these out. I'll go back to my pointer tool and I'll like select all these clips and I'll just cut them from the timeline. This makes the playback a lot easier to listen to because it's just words rather than just waiting for my gaps to finish. So while I'm editing, I always like to have my music picked out because listening to myself talk with no background music is just very, very awkward. So I think it would be a great time for me to talk about Epidemic Sound right now. When I first started, one of my biggest fears was to get copyrighted. So just for like ease of mind, I got a Epidemic Sound subscription. It honestly is my go-to for all my soundtracking needs. The library is like huge and you have like every sound effect under the sun. The songs are from like genuine producers and creators, so they were making music like almost every single week. I remember literally at the beginning there's one point where I was like, I'm gonna make my own music, but honestly these are professionally produced tracks and I can't really get that same like cinematic feel. A little secret that I do, most of my bird sounds and my wave sounds are not the actual sounds from the video. They're sound effects from Epidemic. The actual footage that I get when I'm at the ocean is very loud with other people's voices and I don't get like that pure wave sound. So I'll go on Epidemic Sound and I'll search up waves. Actually I have it already. There's either the music option or the sound effect option. I will go into the sound effect option. And then they have like a bunch of different types of waves. Pure small waves is one that I use all the time because it's a lot more gentle. And Epidemic has over 90,000 sound effects that you can choose from and they're really easy to search up. It's just basically you describe what sound effect you want and there's just like a bunch of options. In terms of licenses, you can either get the personal plan or the commercial plan. I use a personal plan because I'm just like a single creator. You can use it for YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and your podcast as well. And you're allowed to have one channel per platform, which is really nice. So I could use it for my YouTube, but if I want to start a podcast, I could use it for that as well. But if you are a freelancer or your business or you're looking to soundtrack your content, I would recommend you use the commercial plan. The Epidemic subscription, you don't have to worry about your videos being demonetized, flagged, copyright striked, or anything like that. So if you guys are interested, definitely check out the 30-day free trial that I have linked in my description. Even if you decide to cancel, the music that you use during that 30 days is still copyright free. Alright, so I'm gonna look for a song and we will add it to the editor. So I'm just gonna download full mix, grab it, and then stick it into the editor. For videos that are just like mainly me talking, I will just like put the track underneath. But for videos where music is the emphasis, I will show you. Okay, this is my video called The Beauty of Slowing Things Down. So this video was built all around the soundtrack. It was basically just music with like clips over it. Like none of it had to do with what I was saying. Sometimes I'll also like manipulate the music if I need the breaks to be somewhere else. Like here and here I had to cut the track a little bit. I also had to like duplicate the track here because I wanted the build up to be here. When it comes to color grading, it's all like personal preference. You can definitely explore. This is a magnetic timeline, so everything is just kind of like drag and drop. I actually got these adjustment layers from someone else's video, so I will definitely link that down below in the description. These are all like voiceovers. Yeah, I just try to make things as cohesive as possible, and I will show you how I do that. Let's go back to the other video. Sorry if this is a bad tutorial. Honestly, editing can be a whole nother video. So let's say we want to color grade this whole section. So the adjustment layer is in like the title section. Alright, so you select your adjustment layer and then you go to the top to this triangle button, and these show your color wheels, and this is how you color grade. So I'm going to bring up the shadows so that it's a little bit brighter back there. I will warm up the video just a bit and I'll bring the tint up to a 5. In the master setting, I will crank up the saturation. The background to me looks a little bit cold, so I'm gonna make the shadows a little bit warmer. I really just like having a warm look. I think it makes it a little bit more cozy, a little bit of warmth. So for darker videos, I just do it by eye. I'm going to bring up the shadows just a bit. I just play around with the sliders until I find something that I think looks nice. The more you do it, the more you'll find like your color grading style. So sometimes if it works, I'll add this Super 8 film. It was just like an MP4 that somebody posted on the internet and I just like downloaded it. Could it have been a virus? Maybe. It's just like an overlay. I took this and in blend mode, depending on the video, you have to really play around with this selection so that it becomes clear. Since I only want this inner part, I will transform and I'll bring this out. I'm gonna bring it down. So it adds like a little bit of a graininess to it that I really like. I will try to find where I found that and then I will link it in my description. And I will just take this and I will copy and paste it. Overlays are just like images or like effects that you can put over your videos. And honestly, one last thing that I'm going to show you is how much I actually mess up. But I am not a cinema photographer. I'm not a cinematographer. Just cut it out. It really doesn't matter. I also cut out my breaths. Journal entries. That breath right there, I'm gonna cut it out. The thing about doing this is you really have to have patience. The best thing to do to learn how to edit is just play around with your own editor. So when it comes to B-roll, all you need to do is place your video clip on top of your other video clip. So I'm gonna show you a video where I did have a lot of B-roll. This is like my fruit video. So I'm talking, and then after I have like clips of the fruit, so I just like overlap that onto the top of the video. And like I said, B-roll does not have to always relate to the video. When you're starting out, I wouldn't worry too much about B-roll. Another thing also about editing is you really have to be selective about what you keep and what you take out. People don't have the best attention spans, so try to make it as concise as you can, get to the point, have fun with it. This is definitely the most fun part in my opinion. Alright, so congratulations, you have finished your very first YouTube video. It was a lot of work and you should be very proud of yourself. Now it's time to upload. But before any of that, you need to make your thumbnail. Personally, I use Canva. So my thumbnails have been like pretty simple lately. It's just been like a picture and some text. I use this school bell text. If I need to like change anything about the photo, sometimes I usually add warmth. Yeah, that's basically all I do. You can use whatever you want to edit your thumbnail. I know a lot of people use PicMonkey. I think that's free. Or if you want to get fancy, you could use Photoshop. So now we'll head over to YouTube Studio. So you're gonna put in your title. Definitely try to think about your title. This is what people are gonna see. People are going to search up potentially. So make sure you have a good title. For description, don't overlook the description. Talk a little bit about what your video is about. Use words that relate to the video so that it could potentially show up in search. And so this is where you'll upload your thumbnail. And so here is very important. I'm not gonna get into it too much because again, it's beyond the scope of this video, but basically just put in tags. Tags are basically keywords that help your video show up in search. It's just like a hashtag on Instagram. And yeah, that is basically it. You are ready to upload. I know that was a lot to take in, but it will get easier as you keep on going, trust me. Honestly, just remember to be easier on yourself. Don't worry too much about the numbers when you start. It's all about experimentation. Your audience will come to you. Anyways, I hope that this has helped you out in any way. You can do it. I swear you can do it. So that marks the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. I hope you have a great day and I will see you next time.